Hi there everyone, Josiah here with Womprat Creations, and it is time for another scratch build. Now you're probably wondering what all of this wood is for in front of me. Well, I need some new bedroom furniture. I need a lot of new furniture, but I decided that I'm going to make a large portion of this new furniture, and I decided to start in the bedroom for no particular reason. But today I'm going to be making two nightstands. I know this is not a Star Wars build, a sci-fi build, a build that you would typically see on this channel. You've seen me make furniture before, mostly shop furniture. I've made my workbench that all this wood is sitting on. I made that vanity. But now, my point is, I know this is something a little different. That's okay. I'm trying to improve my woodworking skills, and hopefully you guys derive something of value from that as well. I'm a big fan of the mid-century modern aesthetic, and it has the added benefit of being fairly simple construction. So that's what I'm going to be going with. I don't know how much of the furniture that I'm going to be making I'm going to be covering on the channel. This might be it. I might film all of it. I don't know yet. But this is the first thing that I'm doing with creating some new furniture, and it is two nightstands. And for that, I picked up this really lovely walnut plywood. It is 3/4 inch thick, and it is really, really lovely. It has a real walnut veneer on both the top and bottom side. The important thing about that is that because it is a real wood veneer, I can stain it and finish it like normal wood. The reason that I'm not going with walnut hardwood is because it's super expensive, pretty difficult to work with, and it's just a lot. It's expensive. This plywood is not the cheapest plywood out there, but it is really nice plywood, and like I said, it's walnut plywood, so it'll look like walnut. It also won't. Plywood isn't as prone to warpage with seasons changing and things like that as regular hardwood is. So yeah, most of the furniture that I'm going to be making, if not all of it, is going to be out of this walnut plywood. I really like walnut. Walnut is a really nice dark wood that I think is going to look really nice once it's all finished up. Yes, I'm starting with my two nightstands today. It seemed like the easiest spot to start, but it is not going to be without its challenges. Each one of these nightstands is going to have two drawers. You guys, if you watched my workbench build, you know how much I love working on drawers. Drawers suck. I'll say it. Drawers suck. A tiny mistake in any number of areas could make what should be a useful addition to a piece of furniture a disaster and a nightmare that you don't want to bother with. So I'm going to, my drawers with my workbench turned out pretty good. They're the best drawers I've done so far. Hopefully I can continue that trend with these. Each one of the nightstands is going to have two drawers as well as a power supply. But we will get to all that. The first thing that I need to do is cut out a bunch of pieces from this really lovely walnut plywood. right, you guys, all of my pieces are cut out, and I've said this before, but it bears saying again. There are some cuts on a table saw that, well, let me start out by saying every cut that you make on a table saw should be taken with great care. Table saw is a terrifying machine that can cause a lot of damage very quickly. That being said, some cuts are a little more dangerous than others, and most of it is due to the design of a table saw. You can make a bunch of different cuts on a table saw. Some are more dangerous than others. I just made a couple of fairly dangerous cuts that I'm not a fan of. However, I go very, very slow, and I pay very close attention to where my hands are at, the way that the relationship of my wood to the blade. There's a lot of things that you need to pay attention to if you are going to make a fairly dangerous cut. So keep that in mind, please. Don't assume that because I know those shots are sped up just so that you don't have to sit and watch me cut wood on a table saw for an hour. That's not interesting to me. I'm sure it's not interesting to you. But I am taking every precaution that I can anytime that I use a table saw. So please, please be careful. That being said, all of my pieces are cut out. I have enough pieces here for 2 equally sized nightstands, and I am about to start actually, no, I'm not about to start assembly. First, hang on. All right, so first I told you I'm going to be putting a power supply in each one of these. Why? Because that makes sense to me. The point of having a nightstand is to have something to put your phone while it's charging, while you're going to bed at night, a lamp, stuff that needs to be plugged in. And I can't stand having to fiddle for the outlet in the wall behind the bed in the dark. It's terrible. So I am adding a power supply specifically made for cabinets. It has 2 110 outlets and then 2 USB plugins. It's perfect. So I need to cut, I'm going to put one of these in each of the nightstands, and that means that I need to cut out holes for this to plug into. So I'm going to get out my, well, first I'm going to plan this out on the back pieces, on the back piece of each of these. Then I will get my jigsaw out, I'll cut out the hole, then I will go ahead and get to assembly. And I'll go ahead and talk you through my assembly real quick too, because we'll just put all those together in some nice sped up clips. For my assembly, I am not going to be using fasteners, which is terrifying to me. I'm going to do an all glue assembly, which means that I will need to glue each piece to every other piece, and then clamp it very tightly for, I'm going to leave them clamped for 24 hours just to be safe. The reason that this is scary to me is because I haven't done that kind of woodwork yet. I haven't joined 2 pieces of wood with just wood and trusted it to bear weight. I am very much a glue and fastener guy, but these pieces are I'm making furniture that I want to look nice, and therefore I don't want screws or finished nails visible on the outside. And with the dimensions of this of these nightstands, I wouldn't be able to use my pocket hole jig to get in, because I could get all the pieces together, but then that last one, I wouldn't be able to fit the drill in to put those pocket hole screws in, and I don't want to have to put screws on the outside to get that last piece in. So I'm going to attempt to do an all glue assembly on these, and like I said, it's terrifying to me. I have done some research on it, and all of my research says that it should be fine. These aren't going to be under a high load. They're not going to have a lot of weight on them or in them, so they shouldn't be knocking around very much. I'm hoping that this works out. Really, really hoping. So, yeah, to reiterate, I'm going to plan where I'm going to put these in my nightstands. I'm going to get my jigsaw. I'm going to cut out that chunk so that I can plug that in later. Then I'm going to assemble all of them, clamp them, and come back tomorrow and see how that works out. All right, let's get to it. All right, you guys, the bodies of both of my nightstands have been assembled. The other one is sitting over there at the moment, but the glue seems to be doing great so far. Wood glue is amazing. These feel really sturdy. The next thing that I need to do is construct the drawers. Now, I know drawers can be a real they can be a real fight. If you get one small measurement or component wrong, it can make the whole drawer just not function essentially at all. A drawer has one function, and that is to slide out, you put stuff in it, and slide back. And if it becomes a challenge in that thing that should be a really simple operation, if that becomes a challenge because one little thing is off, you might as well not have that drawer. So I am going to attempt to give you guys a more in-depth explanation of how I get my measurements for all of the different drawers components. The first thing is actually a decision. The first thing that you need to figure out is your drawer faces. So the part of the drawer that the handle is on and that you'll pull out in order to get to the actual drawer itself. So the drawer faces, you have a decision. You can have overlay drawer faces or inset. The only thing that this means is overlay drawer faces sit on the outside of your cabinet, and they'll rest on top of these face pieces right here. So they'll actually hang over, and they'll almost come all the way to the edge of the outside of your cabinet. Hence overlay. They lay over the outside of your drawer. Or you can have inset drawer faces, which just means that they are going to sit inside the drawer, and they will be flush with the front of your cabinet. For this, I am going to be using inset drawer faces. For when I built my workbench, I used overlay. For these, I'm using inset. I just think that matches the aesthetic I'm going for a little more on these. The only thing that really changes with finding your measurements for the drawer faces between those two is where you get your measurements from. So if you're doing overlay, you get your measurements from the outside of your cabinet. If you're doing inset, you get your measurements from inside the cabinet. Essentially, other than that, the way I'm going to explain to you how I get my measurements for my drawer faces is essentially the same. So I'm doing inset drawer faces, which means all of my measurements need to come from inside the cabinet. So my cabinet is 18.5 inches wide and 11 7/8 inches tall. So I'm going to have two drawers in here. The first one, the first measurement that I need is the width of my drawer face. So 18.5, you want 1/8 of an inch of clearance on all sides of your drawer face. This gives a pretty clean look, but it also leaves a small room for error. It gives you some wiggle room. If you're a really experienced carpenter, cabinet maker, woodworker, you can have really flush drawer faces with almost no clearance. I am not that kind of woodworker, and I'm assuming if you are trying to learn some more woodworking from me, you're not that kind of woodworker either. There's no shame in that. I am fully aware of the type of woodworker I am, and the reason I chose to make the furniture I'm going to be making is an attempt to get better. But you want 1/8 of an inch of clearance all the way around your drawer face. So 18.5, you want to take away 1/8 of an inch from both sides. So that's 1/4 of an inch. 18.5 minus 1/4 of an inch is 18.25 inches wide. So that's how wide my drawer faces are going to be. Now for the lengths, don't let me lose you here. This isn't a complicated thing, I promise. For the lengths, the inside of my drawer is 11 7/8 inches tall. So again, you want 1/8 of an inch clearance on all sides of your drawer faces. So you take away 1/4 of an inch on both the top and bottom. But because I'm going to have two drawers in here, I need 1/8 of an inch in between the two drawer faces too. So I need to take away 3/8 of an inch from my total measurement. So 11 7/8 minus 3/8 is 11 1/2. 11 1/2 would be, so then 11 1/2 divided by 2, because I have 2 drawer faces, is 5 3/4 inches. So 5 3/4 inches tall and 18 1/4 inches wide. I will put an actual formula for you here so that you don't just try to piece together my ramblings. Hopefully this will make sense for you. All right, so I have my drawer faces. Now I need to figure out where I'm going to mount my slides, my drawer slides. So, I mean, the bottom ones, it makes sense. They're just going to go right there along the bottom. That makes sense. But for the ones that go above that, for the second drawer, I need to make sure that this drawer slide doesn't interfere with the drawer below it when I try to pull it out. If I have it too low, it's going to pull out my bottom drawer, and I don't want that. So I take my drawer front height, 5 3/4 inches, and I just add an inch to that. That gives me enough room to where I know the top drawer is not going to interfere with the bottom drawer at all. So 5 3/4 plus an inch, 6 3/4. I measure up from the inside of the cabinet, 6 3/4 inches, and that is where my second slide is going to go. An inch is just, it's not a rule, but I've just found that an inch clearance, just make sure that you don't have any issues with your drawers interfering with one another. All right, so I have my drawer faces. We talked about where the actual drawer slides are going to go. Now I need to get the measurements for all of the pieces that will make up the actual drawer. So we have the drawer face, which, like I said, is the part that your handle is attached to and you'll actually pull out. It is what you will see from the outside of the cabinet when all the drawers are closed. Now we need to get the internals of the drawers figured out. We need to get the internals of the drawers figured out, which means that a little more math. But this is much simpler math than any other math, than the math that we did for the drawer faces. And by that I mean we need to find the depth of our drawer, how far in it's going to be going, and for that it's super easy. I'm using 14-inch slides. The depth of my drawers is 14 inches. That's it. That's as easy as it is. Whatever size slide you're using, that is the depth of your drawer. For the length, also super easy. You take your inside measurement of width and you subtract an inch. Why do you subtract an inch? Because you have 2 drawer slides. You have a drawer slide over here and a drawer slide over here. And you can measure, but I guarantee you your drawer slide is a 1/2 inch thick. So 2 1/2-inch slides means 1 inch. You subtract 1 inch from in my case, 18 1/2 inches. You have 17 1/2 inches. See, that's not too bad. This will give you all of the measurements that you need for the main components of your slides. You can still screw this up. Even if you get all of those measurements right, actually installing your drawers in here can still be a challenge. But I will cross that road when I come to it. For right now, I need to cut out all of those pieces for the inside. All right, you guys, the shop is a thorough mess. It's pretty gross in here, but my nightstands and their respective drawers are constructed and they work pretty well. Yeah, about as well as any other drawer that I make, which functions, and there is minimal frustration. So that's something. Now what I need to do is stain everything. I'm going to do, I have my other nightstand on my table over here, just because I can't fit everything on one of my workbenches, but I need to get to staining, and I'm going to use a dark walnut stain. The same stain that I use for my Bluetooth speaker cabinet, and then after I get a couple coats of stain on, probably 2 is what I'm thinking, After I get that stain on, I will let that settle probably until tomorrow, where I will, what's the next step after that? I'm going to attach the legs. I'm going to attach the legs before I seal all of the wood up, just because the stain I'm not too worried about doing in different sections. So like on the actual nightstand itself, I'm going to have to do all of the areas I can reach right here, and then once that's dry, I'll have to flip it and get the bottom. That's fine with me, but with the sealing of the wood, I want to do that all at once, because I don't want things curing differently than other things. I know it would just be the bottom portion, but I would like to keep these as uniform as possible. So I'm going to stain everything, then I'll put the legs on, and then I'll check back in with you guys before I seal it so we can talk about that. All right, well, I intended to film the finishing and attaching of the legs. However, I came into the shop the other day and decided to do a little bit of work off camera and then finished. So I'm sorry, but it wasn't anything new. I didn't make these legs. I bought these off of Amazon. I'll put the link down in the description. So there really wasn't much that you guys missed out on there. As far as finishing this, I originally did a couple coats of tung oil. However, that was not curing the way that I wanted. So I did a really light sanding of 220 grit over the whole thing to even out the surface. Then I went through and sprayed on a oil-based, hang on one second. Okay, so I went and sprayed on a oil-based polyurethane finish. This is clear. It went on really nicely. I did a couple coats of that, and it's a nice, hardy, protective layer over my wood. But this works out really nicely. The drawers work really well. They're still not perfect. I would probably get yelled at if this were my job, but for my purposes, they work fine. There's no sticking, there's no wobbliness. So I'm going to call it a success for the drawers. The other thing that I did while you guys weren't looking was I attached the power outlet on the back of both of my nightstands, and I'm only showing you guys one right now because that's really all I can fit in frame with me, but the other one is actually in my bedroom and plugged in, and the power outlet works just fine. Those were also bought off of Amazon, and I will put the link for those down in the description as well. So sorry you guys didn't get to watch the last little bit of me putting these nightstands together, but like I said, you didn't really miss out on a whole lot. And like I said, I still have a bunch of furniture to make. So you guys will probably see me do those exact things in a later build anyways. So thank you for tuning in for this week's Scratch Build. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Hey, look at you, you overachiever you. You watched that entire video and you deserve something awesome in return. You can head over to wompratcreations.com. The link will be down in the description, and you can pick yourself up some awesome Womprat Creations merch, just like this original Only You Can Prevent Imperial Invasions Ewok t-shirt. Thanks, guys.
517 to scanner control. 517 to scanner control. 316, report to control. 5-3 to upper bay door. 5-3 to upper bay door.